the game?
I did not.
Okay. Not pleasant words towards the Protoss race. That's the only way that I can put it. All right, guys. Here we go. In the bottom left side, we're looking at the main base of Mr. Mauer himself. It is ShoWTimE.
In the top right, as the red Terran, he is MarineLorD.
I often feel when we get ready to cast an entire best of 5 of MarineLorD, like I like what you said, that he doesn't shy away from the late game, and I think he's pretty good in it as well, especially when he comes into Ghost. I think he prefers tanks over Liberators, and I'm not sure if I agree with that. I'm actually more of a Liberator fanboy myself, if I look at it from the Terran point of view. But I always feel that MarineLorD has one special build up his sleeve, you know, maybe like a Proxy Armory, Widowmine drop into a Thor Rush or something. I wouldn't be super shocked if we see one of those builds make an appearance here today.
I don't know about Thor Rush, but along similar lines, yeah. Like
that build is so good, Zombie Grow. Are you making fun of me for the Thor Rush? Like, I have a 100% loss record against that map, and my boy Aquaron used it as well in the group stage against Hearthstone. That build is invincible for all I care.
I mean, if it's that strong, then I guess we'll see it, Roddy. If you don't see it, then I question you. But he's going to go for at least, I think, if there's all 5 games are played out, it's going to be at least one game MarineLorD starts off with a 1 base, right? Like either a factory expand or straight up to a starport for a proxy. I mean, when I got to cast him in the group stages against the Protoss, his 2 attempts at a Hellion drop off a 1 base, honestly, were not great. And that might have deterred him for a little bit. In general, I think they are actually difficult to perfectly hold. It was just a bit of unluckiness, I think, on the side of MarineLorD. But for now, for game 1, we do have a 1 Rax expand. The probe is going to get in there and see that it's a defensive setup, go into the main, see a factory on the way, and that's just a Reaper. Not going to be a Marine follow-up. It's a gas first.
You know, I'm a big fan of the Hellion drop build myself, but I actually think it's so much better of just a Reaper expand than as a 1 base opener. Because I feel like if you open up 1 base as a Terran, then as a Protoss, like all alarm bells go off. You often get the safety battery anyway. You know something is coming your way, so you're super prepared. Well, if it's just a regular normal opening, you're kind of like, okay, it could be Widowmine, it could also just be 3CC, it could be Raven. Maybe he does a Hellion drop, but the Hellion drop seems to pretty much always catch people off guard, because it hits so quick, even with an expand. So I kind of feel like it's a waste to do it off 1 base.
I think I ultimately agree. I mean, I've seen, there's always that moment where the speed of something makes up for the lack of, I guess, surprise. But for me, it's just that the Hellions, like, all they need to do is find 1 probe line, like with the army out of position, because Protoss, as a race, just doesn't have a lot of units to play with. That can make it suddenly either the easiest thing to hold on to or the easiest thing to actually do damage with for the Terran. But you are more in line with, I guess, MarineLorD's thoughts, since he has opened up 2 bases into Hellions. I do expect a medevac to pop out of there, and there it is. That's something that MarineLorD just likes to open up with, right? But ShoWTimE already having a wall in the natural, I mean, really only has to worry about that drop. And there is a location on Jagannatha where you can still drop unseen. He's trying to cover his bases too.
Yep, I mean, there's a lot of area in that main base to potentially get those Hellions in. I would like to see MarineLorD keep his Reaper. Actually, he can hop the Reaper into the high ground as well. I mean, that's not a wall-off by ShoWTimE, since he went for the low ground wall-off. I don't really like that he's doing this, because now I feel like he's kind of revealing it. I feel like if I see this as ShoWTimE, I already know enough. And ShoWTimE knows enough as well. Immediately goes for the full wall-off with a shield battery, and now sends units into the main base. I'm actually kind of sad that he just showed 4 Hellions, because there are plenty of openings which go 2 Hellions into then Widowmines or something, right?
Yeah, you are right about that. Maybe he thinks that it is just so if I was going to guess as the Protoss player what MarineLorD is doing with that reactor factory, I would guess this. So either way, a bit on the nose. So the Hellion's going to try and find a way into their natural, which maybe is something that is a little bit surprising, right? The main is where ShoWTimE figured they would come in from, so most of the units are up there. He does pull the probes away pretty quickly, but if he can get 6 here and 3 of them can still survive, actually get 7 here, 9 here. Okay, well, there you go. That is nice.
A while ago, I don't know who really tweeted it, but they basically went the 2-Rex, 3-Rex tweet and then turned it into the Hellion drop against Protoss, having a very high win record in tournaments. And I was like, I agree. I actually see this build do very well. This is a really clean start, because it's not just the fact that he killed 9 probes. Like, even if you lose all 4 Hellions and the medevac, you'd be like, well, lost mining time, 9 probes. The third was a bit later for ShoWTimE than it is with some of the other builds. Not bad. But the fact that he basically kept everything alive other than 1 Hellion, in my opinion, makes this a fantastic start from MarineLorD.
It really is. I mean, as long as there's not an immediate counterattack potential, and there certainly isn't in this game for ShoWTimE, he didn't open up with more than 2 gateways. He does have Blink, but he has moved swiftly into Robotics Bay and 3rd Nexus. And now we do get to talk about what ShoWTimE has planned here. So he's got Blink, but like how many Blink Stalkers is he actually going to make, I think is one of the questions. If MarineLorD is just going to do what we expect, you already touched on it, like his preference is tanks, then perhaps he just overloads on the charge lots and makes sure that he gets the Colossus out, right? That could still take a pretty good fight if MarineLorD does just kind of, do the typical follow-up. The Colossus, unfortunately, doesn't actually block. It's a giraffe, so you just go right underneath it. So 4 more Hellions going to go down, or rather 5 probes. That's not bad, man. Those Hellions ain't going to do very much else.
Yep, they could have actually killed 3 more, because 3 probes were perfectly lined up right when the Hellions showed up, and the Hellions were like, we're going to shoot at the Colossus instead. It was like, well, that's the wrong fight to choose, buddy. But then the fact that they still get in there and get 5 probes in the end is obviously not that bad. MarineLorD could drop ACC behind all of this the moment he moves out, but one way or the other, this is going to be a very late 3rd command center, so this is a very committed push. I would have absolutely loved this push if this map was a bit smaller. Now, every time I say that, I gotta say it doesn't take that long, right, to make it to the other side of the map on this map because of the acceleration zones, but I don't know, I would still, for instance, if this was Light Shade, I'd be like, oh my goodness, ShoWTimE is in so much trouble. On this map, maybe he's got some more wiggle room.
Yeah, there's actually like 2-second difference on the actual rush distance. Natural to natural, it's a bit different 3rd to 3rd between the 2 maps, but I mean, still get your point. Like in general, Jagannatha is going to be just that long map, right? And especially if you aren't using the acceleration zones, and it can be, I guess, a bit more in question. So it's that maybe extra crucial amount of time, a couple more Zealots, maybe +1 actually does finish. I like what ShoWTimE's doing. You got to do this as the Colossus player. Already getting a lot of Marines, forcing out the Raven energy as well, while he can still back away. A good start for ShoWTimE. Hopefully won't get punished for it. Yep, he's not.
No, this was really good. Look at what's left for MarineLorD. He really doesn't have that many units left. If I'm ShoWTimE, I don't even respect this army. I just go for it. He's got charge as well. There are 4 Marauders and 5 Marines. Go for it, ShoWTimE. You've got a monstrous army. You can absolutely chase this down. Maybe get the Raven as well. Just getting a couple of swipes off with those Colossus makes your life so much easier. And then obviously the interference matrix is being used at a point where it's not even crucial anymore. Like, who cares if one of the 2 Colossus isn't shooting? All you really need is 1 Colossi to start firing at these Marines, and this command center could even be in a bit of trouble here.
Looks like it will finish, but as far as reliably producing SCVs, it's going to take a little while, so let's turn into an orbital. That was a very nice hold. That was kind of the perfect example of why you want to embrace the push with the Colossus. So you can get the Marines is always the ideal. It doesn't usually happen so perfectly like that. That was like literally all the Marines in a ball. Perfect for the Colossus. And then you also bait out the Raven energy. They kind of have to respond to try and save their units, and you just back away. So excellent use there of the army, of, I guess, the knowledge of also how MarineLorD would probably follow that up, since he had the Observer, seeing tanks. And now we even have a Warp Prism, going to control the map a bit further as ShoWTimE takes a 4th base, a 2nd Robo, and a 2nd Forge, really extending his lead here.
And look how naked this main base is. There was just absolutely nothing in position. In the end, MarineLorD does salvage the situation somewhat nicely, only losing 6 SCVs and a bit of lost mining time. But the Warp Prism does get recalled home as well. I mean, ShoWTimE has really turned this game upside down. I never thought it was like, oh my god, it's game over. But I was like, man, on paper, this is a really good start for MarineLorD. But that push did not work out at all. And all of a sudden, it feels that ShoWTimE is just doing what ShoWTimE does best. And that is building up a very powerful Protoss army. And we know that he's very difficult to defeat once he really gets all those high-tech units going.
Is 1-1's going to match up, it looks like, for the defense of the push. Warp Prism bypasses Medevac and vice versa. I guess who was actually paying attention. Well, a lot more emphasis on finding out where the army is. Zealot might find it for ShoWTimE. He hasn't warped anything in the main base, so I'm actually afraid that he didn't notice. They both might not have noticed each other's harassment. But I'm actually eagerly awaiting to see what happens there. There's the medevac. What a mines. ShoWTimE may be a bit distracted on the front lines, trying to micro his stalkers, is not pulling the probes away, so that's going to be a nasty loss in the main base and perhaps even the natural.
And what's very gnarly about this is that he doesn't have detection anywhere, so this is actually so frustrating to deal with. When all of a sudden you've got 4 cloaked mines showing up in 3 different mineral lines. Perhaps even ShoWTimE could snap and just decide, you know what, I'm just gonna fight. But I actually think that the majority of these mines is gonna fire at least one more time, if not twice. And this could really start hurting in the end. Wait, what does he have? Oh, he's got an observer there, okay. But the one in the natural is gonna fire, right? Then yeah, ShoWTimE knows it.
Yeah, well now he's gonna have defenses against future drops, right? Like it was kind of around that time, getting the 4th base, didn't quite get the observer there.
Yeah, I thought that was gonna happen. I've had that so many times, I'm traumatized.
Yeah, but anyways, so 4 bases is not the biggest of deals for him to add on those cannons to make sure that no longer is a problem consistently anyways. And he did clean it up kind of as fast as possible with a well-timed observer. His warp prism, not able to do as much. It really is kind of in an awkward place where like, yeah, reinforcements are naturally going to be around it, but it's still prepared. And as ShoWTimE actually feels confident to move his entire army on the map, either meet MarineLorD halfway or even engage into MarineLorD's 3rd, that warp prism becomes a lot deadlier.
Yeah. Oh, this is a proper bio army though. Like earlier it was kind of a sorry excuse of a bio army. Like there's firepower in this army of MarineLorD. So ShoWTimE does have to be a bit careful, because if he eats a couple of big EMPs to the face and the Novas whiff, then all of a sudden I'm feeling this Terran army, but ShoWTimE is a veteran in situations like this. He knows that he shouldn't rush into it. These fights are so awkward near these acceleration zones because the Novas speed up as well. If I was MarineLorD, I would get the hell out of there.
That's not exactly an army you want to tango with. I mean, it's not impossible, I suppose, but a concave away from the acceleration zones, really blanketing the army with EMPs. So far, they just, actually 2 of them finally managed to get rid of the sentry energy. But it's being rebuilt. Disruptors still don't miss shots because they get EMP. They are easier to snipe, but when you have 6 disruptors, I mean, that's a lot of sniping, right? Disruptors gonna zone out the army, I think so. Some decent splits in that acceleration zone. Vikings also not being taken care of as ShoWTimE is trying to run away. So a couple of Colossus might take a lot of damage. One's actually already gonna go down.
Yep, if I was MarineLorD, I'd probably just fight. He's got so many value units on the top side of my screen. You need to bring those units over, MarineLorD. He's so busy kiting with this army. There was a solid 20 to 30 supply just standing there. That really would have made a big difference. Because the moment those disruptors are on cooldown, I'm really not that impressed with the rest of this army, right? It's kind of the moment, and I think MarineLorD just missed an opportunity.
I think you're right about that. I mean, ShoWTimE does have an upgrade lead, but we've seen this type of army actually just disintegrate. A couple of good EMPs, a concave of Marauders, and suddenly those Colossus don't really seem like they're shooting anything at all. That's actually what MarineLorD's trying to set up now. ShoWTimE feeling confident to move in, still has a lot of disruptor shots, but from the left side, maybe a bit of a surprise. ShoWTimE not realizing it was going to come from there. Vikings jumping on top of the Colossus as well, going to take out both of those, and then move on to the Warp Prism, but not before more Zealots get reinforced. This might be good enough for ShoWTimE. He's taking the supply lead. He still has a lot of disruptors, a lot of stalkers left over, and MarineLorD is desperately microing back to his 3rd.
He's actually got a lot of money in the bank as well. ShoWTimE is doing all of this while floating 2k resources. He's going to fire Novas forward. He's going to take care of the last few Marauders as well. And MarineLorD will be forced to tap out while ShoWTimE wins with 2,700 minerals. And I feel every single pro, whenever they win a game and they have that much money in the bank, they're like, And they kind of roll their eyes and like, let's not talk about it. Let's just move on. Let's head into game 2. But I really think the game-deciding moment was indeed when you mentioned that ShoWTimE was embracing that first push of MarineLorD, right? He gets out on the map, activates the Guardian Shield, gets 2-3 perfect hits off on those Marines that don't have any upgrade. And all of a sudden, you look at what's left of the push. Nothing. Like 4 Marauders, 2 tanks. Like, that's not going to do anything.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when he has the ability to make a decent amount of charge lots. He didn't really make that many Blink Stalkers, but it was all about those Colossus taking out a good chunk of Marines first and foremost. Excellent hold, making up for the Hellion damage he took. I mean, that type of damage, as you were saying, it's not like it's game over. It actually feels quite likely even that something else is going to be more impactful. I actually thought that towards the end of the game there, it seemed like we were going to have a longer game. That maybe MarineLorD also kind of recovered, was taking an okay fight around the acceleration zone, but even despite having a bit of a surround, having what is usually considered a strong army, not actually able to break through ShoWTimE. I'm guessing upgrades played a factor, and the fact that left side army, while it did provide a bit of a concave, was also kind of still going through a choke, right? Slow that down.
Like MarineLorD clearly is not somebody who's like F2 stimming his way forward, because if he would have done that, I actually think all those other units would have shown up. Not saying that you should do that, Terran players, but then all the units that he had out on the battlefield actually would have participated, and I think he can keep chasing that army down, and maybe the Disruptors can fire again, but not before some of the front lines start to disappear, the Colossus eat a few more volleys. Yeah, he was microing his heart out with what felt like 50% of his army. Now, obviously, he's got Vikings in the sky, but he easily had 6-7 Marauders and 12 Marines standing there on the right side, and that really would have made a very big difference in those exchanges.
Yeah, you're right about that. Even so, it seemed like he was have a defensive setup, and it still was cracked by ShoWTimE. So ShoWTimE not only showing his defensive prowess, but also choosing the right time to strike and actually kill his opponent when he could. On the bottom left of Pillars of Gold, bringing out an SCV, we have the Red Terran MarineLorD.
We're gonna Tor rush, yes. And the top right side of Pillars of Gold, we're looking at the main base of Mr. Mauer. It is ShoWTimE.
I would love it personally. I want to see that actually be good.
It's very good. Ask Aquarum.
Okay, all right, yeah. The last time I remember a Thor Rush being a thing was actually back on was it Descent Station? Was that the map? The really short one where like your bases are right next to each other through a middle choke?
Yeah, where the tanks got stuck in the beginning because the map wasn't designed properly.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been a while. But for now, we'll talk about what we usually expect from this. The Proxy Reaper coming out 1 or 2. I don't remember what MarineLorD's been going for, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say 2 for now. And then Engineering Bay block as ShoWTimE, still working on just a gateway. I mean, he's probably gonna add some X-Core as soon as he realized his opponent was proxying him.
Now, whenever I see ShoWTimE face an opening like this, I think back of a game that perhaps you and I were casting on Everdream, where ShoWTimE was like, you know what, if you block my natural, I'll take my third. Then the eBay got cancelled, then he cancelled his Nexus and retook his natural. I was like, what? How does any of this make sense? It was such a bizarre start, but we'll see if he actually does that this time. He is just going to take his third. That's already interesting, right? Because there are so many pros players who actually pull a couple probes, or they build a Zealot, and they're like, nope, I want my natural only. ShoWTimE is okay with apparently expanding a bit further away.
Yeah, he actually makes a Zealot and then goes, meh, I guess I don't need it. That Zealot's not necessarily just to help out with Engineering Bay, it's also supposed to help tank shots from the Reaper and mess up the micro. It should never kill the Reaper, touch the Reaper at all, but if it saves a probe in the process, it's usually deemed worthy. The Adept being chronoed might be able to save 2 or 3 probes. Already we see 2 getting awfully low. Third one's gonna get low as well. Adept, save us, please. All right, 1, 2 finally go down. There you go.
I feel like MarineLorD could have used that grenade a bit earlier. I actually think that would have really made his life a bit easier, and he should have been able to take at least, I think, 3 probes there, because he got so many shots off. He's going to be able to get 1 more probe, as this probe is just kind of left all by itself. Can 2 Reapers cancel the battery? With the SCV as well? SCV, yeah. Oh, he kills it! Wow, what a start for MarineLorD.
That's pretty good. I mean, I was going to say it's actually nice that ShoWTimE was able to keep calm and build a shield battery, realizing the oncoming problem, but then he gets it killed, and then it's like, well, now it's 100 minerals down the drain, and also you don't have a shield battery.
And that pylon is in range of the bunker. I'm actually very surprised by that. I gotta say, if you would have asked me, is that in range? I would have said no, but it is, and that's more bad news for ShoWTimE.
Well, Reapers also get the +1 bonus, don't they? It's like something we don't really talk about, but...
No. Another Reaper shows up in the main base and is going to finish off one of those probes from earlier that was already softened up. The second one goes down as well. What a start from MarineLorD. And if I was ShoWTimE, I'd be on tilt, man. What a start this is.
Yeah, I agree. On tilt, and then also just like, not even that it's really bothersome. This is actually doing really great damage. 4 Reapers might be a little excessive. I actually kind of like the third one just to go up into that main base and catch him having to move across great lengths to defend bases. The fourth, I mean, well, not to nitpick, I guess. It's going to go into that main as well, try and get some more probes. The bunker is finally going to be taken down, but this was a lot of just kerfuffle. I mean, ShoWTimE now has his natural as his third, He had to build 2 shield batteries because the first one was straight up killed, not canceled. And did lose some mining time. I mean, it's an awkward start, but if anything, yes, ShoWTimE is absolutely tilted.
Yep. And the worst thing about it is that because you're so busy in dealing with all of this, that your tech is very, very late. Like the Stargate goes down 4 minutes and 5 seconds into the game, which obviously means that it's going to take even longer for ShoWTimE to get an actual proper army out. I wouldn't be surprised if ShoWTimE would play like Phoenixes and Zealots this game rather than going for like maybe Oracles into a robotic stack or Blink Stalkers. Like Phoenix Zealot is not something that I feel that suits ShoWTimE's style, but I actually think it would be the best choice in a game like this.
And there was a couple of months there where ShoWTimE was specifically only doing things we wouldn't expect of him, like only cheesing and only 2 base all letting. So he certainly got practice with it, but it's not usually what we would consider his strength. I'm a little worried because MarineLorD's follow-up is
Cloaked Mines.
Cloaked Mines. And that's going to be, I mean, on one hand, the Phoenix finds it, it kills it, fantastic. On the other, it's so unlikely, if more likely, is that it burrows and then doesn't get picked up.
He doesn't have enough Phoenixes, that's the thing. Like the Phoenix could lift one, but MarineLorD should just always send it at this point because the Phoenixes can only lift 1 Widow Mine. Yeah, this is a disaster for ShoWTimE. Oh my goodness, I'd be so pissed in this game.
At least one of the Widow Mines, I guess, was wasted. Second one got 2, third one gets 1. Medevac was always going to die once you knew that it was Phoenix, but the fact that you now have to wait for an Oracle to pop out for that Robo to finish and then pop out Observer, I mean, that's a long time. These Reapers even trying to get another probe on their list is going to actually get into the probe. There you go. And that is continued
needs to pull. He needs to pull. Oh, there's Widow Mines everywhere. Oh, look at MarineLorD. He's retargeting the fire as well. He should have unburrowed that one. Exactly. He should have moved it a bit closer. Phoenix is going to try to lift it, and at least ShoWTimE will catch it. But, well, I don't really understand the Cloaked Banshee follow-up, by the way. I like everything that MarineLorD has done in this game, but why would you ever follow this up with Cloaked Banshees?
It might be a little bit of just that is the build, that is what he was thinking of, just trajectory was already determined, right? But I do think that there's like the classic thing that happens with Banshees, especially if it's like a later Banshee than normal, is that the surprise Banshees are sometimes better than the counter Banshees, whatever you want to put it. Like these just being a surprise because they're maybe a little bit later, because I'm going Phoenix, why would you ever? My third base is now like, it's my natural, right? So now I'm just like kind of trying to reconfigure how I defend, where I defend. These can do a lot of damage.
Yep, I actually think you're spot on. Like, just because they make absolutely no sense, they're probably going to be devastating. ShoWTimE is like, he's still a bit hesitant, and he's like, I do really need to figure out what you're doing on the other side of the map, but I'm also so worried I'm gonna get dropped again. The Phoenixes are flying towards the Banshees, but they barely miss him, and these Banshees only need 7 or 8 seconds to be completely worth the investment, and look at the amount of damage they're already dealing. You get 8-9 probes with these Banshees. Yeah, we call it the Observer, but the damage has already been done. Yes, you were spot on. These Banshees were, in the end, the correct call.
Seems to happen more often than not. I mean, I say that, and I think on the latter, it actually is like probably an abysmal win rate, you know, as Protoss players got used to a Banshee meta at one point, but we've kind of moved on and moved away, and they were a surprise indeed. 13 probes going down means that MarineLorD now has a free SCV lead. Phoenix is finally getting on the other side of the map, and they get immediately bopped by a Widow Mine. One dies, they don't even kill the Cyclone.
My heart is aching right now for ShoWTimE, and that's not because I'm biased or emotionally invested in this series, but this really does just feel like an absolute train wreck of a game. Now, if ShoWTimE somehow ends up winning this, I know that MarineLorD is going to destroy his computer and the best of 5 will end. But I also think that if there is one momentum changer ever, this has to be the game, because it feels from start to finish, everything worked out perfectly for the Frenchman.
I think that's the best way to put it. It seems like everything's worked out perfectly. I mean, there's a couple of things that could have been even more perfect, honestly. So I guess perfect isn't quite the right word, but you know, the command center was built in the high ground. It still is such a great game for MarineLorD. Now the force fields, again, not able to actually grasp those Cyclones, which would have been a decent start. Now the tank is positioned here. The Phoenixes, well, they actually want to go after the Medevacs, but since it's 2 of them and only 4 Phoenix, they both unload. I guess ShoWTimE just avoids the tank for now as best as he can, which he can do right now. Don't lose your Colossus, oh god. Nope. Okay.
I mean, MarineLorD could just strike the third at this point. Like, he could send 8 bio units into the third. There's a Widow Mine in the mix that doesn't fire somehow, some way. Not sure how that happened. ShoWTimE doing whatever he can, but he has to be so careful. If his Colossus eats 1 or 2 tank shots, he is going to be in all sorts of trouble. He's going to lose the batteries at the 3rd. He is going to go for the tanks, but he just doesn't win this fight. This Protoss army is no good. The Zealots don't have charge. The Gateway units just don't have any upgrades. The Colossus doesn't deal any damage. I think MarineLorD has done it, and this game is one game to forget about very, very quickly for ShoWTimE.
Still hasn't killed the tanks. Finally, the 2 tanks go down. The Phoenix come in to save that last Colossus, but it's not going to happen. And MarineLorD takes game number 2. You're exactly right, Roddy. I think you just kind of forget that ever happened. That was a one thing led to another situation, and not favorably for ShoWTimE. So 1-1, and now we need to go to a break. When we come back, we'll see what happens in game 3. Lightshade will be the battleground for game number 3, a map I don't think we've actually seen yet today, but one of the shorter versions, and I gotta imagine that this time MarineLorD does something a bit earlier on in the game. The last game, man, he started off early with the proxy racks, but it was kind of like everything else that followed after that was the real disaster.
Yeah, everything went perfect. Even like the final fight, when it starts, he throws down his scan, locks on the sentries, kills those 2. It's like, well, if I was ShoWTimE, I'd be like, all right, we don't talk about it, just like we don't talk about a lot of things. Let's move on. Let's play the remaining games of this series. In the bottom right side, we're looking at the main base of the German Protoss player representing Team Big. It is ShoWTimE.
In the top left, Is the red Terran for Coca Authentic? Is that correct? It is MarineLorD.
That was marvelous French. I'm jealous.
Thank you. Well, I did take 4 years, which resulted in basically nothing. But at least I could say that.
I had a couple years, but I don't think I can go that far with that team name. I'm like, it's Coca's team. Like, Coca's team works.
Yes, it does. I'm actually not even sure what the P stands for. Party?
Petite or something, right? Petite.
Ah, small. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It's like, wait, is it him and like one other person, right? It's on the team? Just
Denver. No, it's MarineLorD and Denver.
Yeah.
They're like free agents. You know?
Yes, yeah. I'm like looking for team, but on a team.
Oh, it's Pepite, not Petite. Pepite.
Ah.
Why you have to make it so hard, Coca? Can't you just go with Team Coca?
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, this time ShoWTimE is just going to pull the probes. I mean, I think a lot of things could have gone better last game. That going for the third as his natural would still, like, you know, it was not the main problem, or rather, it was a cause of some of the problems, but not like the actual problem. I don't know how to put it. But this time, I don't blame him for actually just being like, nope, cut it out. Get rid of that engineering bay.
He's like, we're never doing that again. So I guess this has to be a proxy target, right? And this is going to be a ridiculously quick Oracle. That's the only thing that I could really make out of this. And if MarineLorD wants to open up with Hellions, he's going to have very little anti-air at home, that's for sure. Come on, ShoWTimE.
This is actually very interesting. This should be a Stargate. That is going to be very powerful, specifically because MarineLorD hasn't gone for a Reaper here. So, yeah, he is going for a bit of greed. He's not going to have a Reaper to scout the lack of something. He's going to have Hellions, just doing what he wanted to do here. And yeah, Hellions do not shoot up. If he immediately went into Widow Mines, there'd be a chance, but then he might have placed them aggressively as opposed to defensively. And that's what we're waiting for, actually. It's just ShoWTimE's Oracle to show up.
Yeah, but there's a lot of potential on the other side of the map as well. This Hellion is actually, or excuse me, this Adept is in a little bit of trouble. One of the Hellions is getting blocked by the Marine, and I think that's a bit unfortunate. Because what do you do if you're ShoWTimE here? Do you, like, wall off on the top of your ramp? Because if those two Hellions show up in his main base, he may kill a whole bunch of SCVs with his Oracle, but he's also in danger of losing a lot of probes at home.
And I would even argue that the Hellions are more dangerous than the Oracle. Like, an Oracle, pulling away from an Oracle is actually pretty decent. Back in the day it wasn't, but it's all right now. One Adept goes down, finally. This one is going to try and chase and at least take care of one of the Hellions. So 2-shot, no longer 2-shot, and actually not getting a whole lot there.
Nope, because he only went for 2. But now we do have a Widow Mine already set up. I'm actually going to keep...
Yeah, there it is.
Well,
that's what I was mentioning.
They're very far away. The mines are not exactly where they should be. There's no mine in the main mineral line, so MarineLorD is going to be very unhappy when he realizes this. He's like, what? Where did that even come from? Okay, this Widow Mine will connect. It's a little bit of splash damage on the SCVs, but I gotta say, very uncharacteristic of ShoWTimE to lose an Oracle like that.
Yeah, I think it was a mistake. You know, ultimately, I do think that at the very last millisecond, he went, "Oh shit!" Like I'll just use the splash though, which will give his second Oracle a little bit more potential. I mean, theoretically, but like you got to worry about you can't exactly go in and chase after those weak SCVs.
Yep, this is gonna be rough, right? Because how many revelations do you really have at this point? It's 2. But that is not necessarily enough against 4 Widow Mines. This is going to be very difficult to defend. ShoWTimE doesn't have any Phoenixes. MarineLorD is like, wow, it's Christmas. This base is super open. I can just drop my mines. And he's going to space them out properly, which is going to make it so difficult for ShoWTimE to figure out when he should use Revelation.
Yeah, Revelation on every single Widow Mine here. That's going to be tough.
He dropped it too early. He doesn't see that one. He dropped
yes. Yeah, okay. So far, the micro's been good enough. And they're down to 3 Widow Mines. A Phoenix is out to help if the Widow Mines ever try to reposition, but they really don't have to. That's a good Revelation. Fortunately, Revelation costs less than it used to.
And that could have gotten a whole lot worse. I gotta say, ShoWTimE handled all of that pretty well. But I think there was a little bit more potential there for MarineLorD too, right? If he would have spaced his Widow Mines out just a little bit better. And maybe go for some on-burrow micro as well in the natural, because there was nothing there. There was 0 pressure being put on his Widow Mines. So there was no need for him to settle for an individual probe there.
Well, this is there was a lot of opportunity for both sides with these openers, and ultimately it comes down to ShoWTimE being up 5 workers. He's going into a strong tech path here. So third Nexus only recently came down, going into Colossus after the Stargate. And MarineLorD, I mean, just setting up defensively. He did get a pretty good scout into the main, I thought, but I guess you can't quite put 2 and 2 together yet. He only saw the Robo and knows about the Stargate. He didn't actually see the Robotics Bay. Although he did see 2 gases. I mean, well, MarineLorD might not need a bunker, but that's ultimately not too much of a big deal. He should be able to figure out right now that it is Phoenix Colossus.
Actually a bit surprised that ShoWTimE didn't want to lift the second mine day. He's like, no, I'd rather pull my probes and just keep these Phoenixes on top of the medevac. So he's like, I'm okay with losing 2 workers. I just want to kill that medevac. I think a lot of Protosses would have just lifted both mines there. I think don't lose any mining time, and you know that they're never going to fire, but just a choice, I guess.
I guess so. At least ShoWTimE fixes his gas in the main.
Yeah, because you lost 2 probes, mate. No, you're making a very valid point. Like, it's kind of funny, but it's actually... That's gonna hurt him if he wants to play this Colossus style. He's getting probably a couple of Stalkers down the line as well with Blink. Wants to get upgrades. He really needs to figure that one out.
He's playing a bit greedy. I mean, ShoWTimE only going up to 2 Phoenix and then right into charge. Like, 2 Phoenix really don't do a whole lot. I mean, you could say that 4 or 5 don't do, I guess, much more, but I don't know. This could be great if Shard was done, if Colossus was, a second Colossus is already out, but it's right now a little bit scary. Second Colossus should be fine. Sand Thermal Lance, I think, will finish, but MarineLorD is pushing awfully quick.
Yeah, ShoWTimE, I could be in a bit of trouble here. Now, obviously, if he gets a great fight with the Colossus, there's potential, but I don't see MarineLorD making the same mistakes as he made before. I gotta say, he's chasing very far out. He does get one of the Colossus, but once again loses the majority of his bio units, and I really want, like, he may as well just use those tanks to start a step forward as well, because they never participate in these fights anyway.
No, they really didn't. I mean, it sucks for ShoWTimE to lose that Colossus. If he had pulled back and then also individually, I think there was the same hotkey type of issue there, force fielded, he might have been able to save it. But, I mean, rebuffing that attack, having your 3 bases set up, knowing that you're going to have a little bit of time to, first of all, add on a lot of charge lots. Charge is finally done. Finish up +1, and then, yeah, rebuild your Colossus count. I mean, he is actually saturated on 3 bases at this point. He's waiting for his gases to finish, but he can go all the way into tech, further tech, Templar Archives on the way, or even just more production with these gateways, starting up that Blink, finally have something to clear out medevacs and have a little bit more map control, but he is once again going to be on the defensive.
How do you feel about ShoWTimE getting charged, but then also getting +1 attack over +1 armor?
Yeah, I feel like this is actually almost like a bop it squad. Like, I hope I can catch you and then just immediately get rid of the army. As far as it actually like surviving a long time, that's what I was talking about with Zealots and armor, right? They can actually survive long, get on top of things. But if the army's not going to bop the Terran army, and by bop I mean find the tanks like unsieged and out of position, then yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe the armor would have been better. The attack certainly is going to benefit these Colossus. There are going to be 3 of them very soon, but actually attacking in, seeing the opportunity. The tanks are going to get a couple of shots, but a good split away. Is he going to save a second Colossus? Not quite, but the charge lots have done their work, and they're forcing MarineLorD to pull back.
Well, that went so much better than I thought it was going to go for ShoWTimE. He's still chasing his army down. He has 1 Phoenix left. That Phoenix is putting in OT right now. It's like, this is like that little guessing game, you know? It's like, under which cup is the coin? It's like, well... I think they went into the center one, but I'm not sure because they're flying on top of each other. Well done by ShoWTimE, because that really could have been gnarly. If those tanks actually start sieging up properly there and more bio units make their way to the other side of the map, I really think the German Protoss player would have been in a bit of trouble. But you're right, he just went for it. Those Zealots bopped the tanks, and the Phoenix is even helping out a little bit as well, lifting one of those tanks, making sure the Colossus were not in any real danger. I think very well handled by ShoWTimE.
I think from MarineLorD's perspective, he probably saw the army move back and thought like, oh, he's really scared. I can safely unsiege. And that might have been what did him in it, you know, because he didn't siege hop, he just unsieged. ShoWTimE actually was prepared to take an engagement, and as we see, it worked out pretty darn well. So ShoWTimE grabs a 4th base, finally grabs a 2nd forge. And the upgrades are going to be maybe a little bit, I mean, yeah, they're going to be behind, right? MarineLorD's already down as 2-2. But ShoWTimE is going to have both Colossus, Archons, and I'm guessing, yeah, there we go, Disruptors for the next fight.
He's starting to get a pretty powerful army now at this point. Even feel that if he really wanted to, he could maybe get a prism and start getting a little bit aggressive with his army. But I also think it's hard to make those traditional attacks a lot of pros players like to make against somebody like MarineLorD, who we know loves tanks and obviously loves Vikings as well. He still has 3 tanks, despite the fact that he already lost 4 tanks. So there's been 7 tanks already in an 11-minute game. I don't know. He's just in love with the tanks in this matchup.
I mean, on the one hand, they feel like they provide some safety because they are a siege unit. They say, don't come near me, I'm zoning you out. On the other, they are like, often it feels like a liability. They are not sieged, and they are shooting at zealots that they don't shoot because they get into the melee range. So, I don't know, I go between liking tanks and not liking tanks, honestly, and I don't know, depending on the person I'm watching, the Terran I'm watching, there's only a couple that I really feel confident when it comes to tanks, honestly. It's not my favorite part of MarineLorD's style, but it can definitely work out. It can actually help a lot against disruptors, but it's so much more about positioning. It's so much more about the setup to the engagement.
I do like these 2-2 timings always, especially once the first goals enter the battlefield as well. ShoWTimE immediately setting up a little Zealot counterattack, and MarineLorD doesn't have one of those Hero Marine bunkers there, and that means that these Zealots are very difficult to deal with immediately. You can see 10 SCVs falling, and obviously ShoWTimE can do this all day. ShoWTimE is like, hey, wait a minute, you've got nothing there, no Sim City. As these armies are getting really close to each other, the next wave of Zealots, I really think are going to absolutely destroy that mineral line of MarineLorD. And then he may feel even more urged to take a fight here in range of static defenses and running into disruptors.
And I'm not sure how much I actually want MarineLorD to stick around. ShoWTimE has once again sent Zealots to the 3rd. He has a Warp Prism there too, but Lightshade is so small, he just warps in from his own 4th and goes to his 3rd. The Warp Prism actually might be better off, I mean, even at home to try and micro, but it's just chilling for now. The Zealots, if they don't do much SCV damage, are at the very least distracting, and that's exactly what ShoWTIME's trying to take advantage of. Using his disruptors when tanks don't have sight, or trying to catch the bio not being controlled.
I believe he lost 1 or even 2 disruptors. No, just a single one. At this point, Marino's like, you know what? I'm going to get out of here. 1 more tank is going to get picked off immediately. The rest of the bio army is going to be in a little bit of trouble as well. He's going to drop the tanks on the low ground. And he's like, you know what? Let's fight then. Let's fight away from those batteries. And ShoWTimE is like, no, just kidding. Just wanted a tank.
I mean, pushing him away, it's actually kind of hard on Lightshade to push into this 4th base. Just it's so wide open, actually, once you get down this ramp. But that you do have to get down the ramp. But ShoWTIME is now prepared to actually take the engagement, stop him from ever entering near his 4th base. Takes a tank down with him. Looks like DTs have entered into the fray as a scan goes down on MarineLorD's 3rd. Also a big distraction as he's forced to pull back entirely.
Yeah, MarineLorD's economy is really starting to hurt due to all this harassment that ShoWTimE has been throwing at him. Vikings trying to get some good shots up, but I love the Stalker positioning there, actually. I mean, then they do have to fire. They shouldn't run. And there they go. They turn around. They started getting a couple of good shots off on those Vikings. Excellent blink by ShoWTimE. Blinks one more time. All the tanks are gone. So much for a man who has made 8 siege tanks in this game. All of them are dead. Vikings trying to get a few more good shots off, but near these batteries, I really don't see this going anywhere for MarineLorD. And I hate the fact that his 3rd is still so exposed. No bus! Oh my goodness.
Yeah, an okay one there. This one also getting a decent amount of Marines. MarineLorD's trying to go for it. He sees a concave, but it's up against the shield battery. Still a very powerful army. It is right before ShoWTIME's upgrades finish, but I'm not sure the upgrades, make enough of a difference here. DTs even get on the action. Finally, a scan goes down, but as MarineLorD's already forced to pull all the way back, that was not the fight that MarineLorD's hoping for. Maybe it was a bit desperate. Maybe he thought the concave would have been good enough, but ShoWTIME's fine.
You can't take those kind of fights near those shield batteries. When you don't have enough Vikings to one-shot Colossi, you simply cannot take those fights.
Gosh.
All the bio is going to steam forward to get on top of the disruptors. They get one of them, but ShoWTIME will send himself into the 2-1 lead. Yeah, I'm also that MarineLorD just kind of snapped there and had enough of that game. He's like, I'm taking too much damage to the Zealot run-bys. Dark Templars are annoying as well. Everything about this race is annoying. Let's just go, but that is not a fight you take, and MarineLorD knows that. Like, if you have like 6 to 8 Vikings, normally it's this tense micro battle, right, where every volley matters. Now they don't matter at all. They're just firing, and the Colossus is just standing there. It's like, well, kind of annoying, but we're still fine. And meanwhile, all the bio units are starting to take severe beatings because of A, the Stim, and B, all the Zealots, and the Colossi shooting at them. Just wasn't the fight.
No, it wasn't. I think you're right. that it was just more of like I'm kind of getting frustrated. It wasn't quite the like just flip the table and just move forward, but it was kind of getting there. I guess if he's gonna play that style again, something that actually does go into the late game or mid to late game, if you want to call it, I would like to see, as you put it, the Hero Marine bunker. That would have helped. He did an excellent job actually defending against the War Prism in the main, so that wasn't the usual problem. But third base constantly be under attack, and then not actually getting his tanks to do something, I think also might be a bit frustrating for him. Like from start to finish, those tanks kind of just looked a bit lame.
Yep, they let him down more than once. Every single time they could have potentially had a big impact, he either just unsieged them or ShoWTimE came in from the right angle. Like, tanks obviously have value in this matchup. I don't think any of us would ever say like, oh, tanks suck against Protoss, because there's always some cool cliffs and stuff, but you know, it's not as powerful as it is in the TVZ matchup, for instance, where that Stim Bio can just like stay safely in range, because Protoss also have a lot of very long range units, and then you can just kind of stay out of range with the tanks, but still in range to fight the bio. And then all of a sudden, you're only fighting 60% of the Terran army. It's like, well, it's a pretty good deal.
And while I think MarineLorD is just kind of a guy that goes tanks, I also want to mention that that map actually doesn't, like, it might look strong because you think, oh, tanks can actually reach the other side quicker than any other map besides submarine. But when you actually reach the bases, the map designers did a great job of making sure that once you reach a base, you don't just get the base, right? Like there's that huge open space around the fort that ShoWTimE was really able to use and made the tanks look as bad as they were. So could be a different result on a different map. And speaking of which, we're going into game 4 on Oxide. In the top right, down 1, he is the Red Terran, MarineLorD.
And in the bottom left side, we're looking at the main base of the man who's now 2-1 in the lead in this best of 5. Displayed some great crisis management in the early stages of the previous game. It is ShoWTimE.
Yeah, guess he was able to actually ignore and forget the game too. I think we were both a little bit worried about that. But ShoWTimE, I don't think, as far as I remember casting him, I don't think nerves or mentality has ever really been his problem. Maybe passivity or one-dimensional, right? Or lacking bloodlust, like those things ShoWTimE has been maybe working on in the past few years. But I can't recall a time I was like, yeah, ShoWTimE's going to be mentally broken here.
Well, maybe after a couple Serial series eventually.
Anyone would be, all right. Okay, that's the one time he's allowed to go on Twitter and complain.
I'll never forget. You remember that sick game they had in Nationwide, and he tweeted out, he's like, why won't this guy just die or something? You know, it's like, it was a super close game, 55 minutes, and he's like, jeez, I gave it everything. How is he still in this game? But yeah, it never really seems to affect the way that he plays, and that's obviously a great mentality to have as a professional StarCraft player, because I know I'd be very bothered after a game 2 like that. I'd be like, oh my goodness, it's not just that this game is falling apart, my entire life is falling apart, everything is going wrong, you know.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we all feel like when we lose a couple of games of StarCraft. But you're right, it doesn't really change very much, you know. Like sometimes ShoWTimE losing and then doing the exact same thing that lost in the game like can be bad. But with the way that he's really tried to become the perfect Protoss, the perfect man here, he's actually usually benefits from kind of just doing the similar macro style, even if it didn't work out in 1 or 2 games. But this isn't really so much macro from our Terran. We do finally have that factory expand. I said at least once we're going to have it. And I guess the Proxy Reaper was already it, but here we have it again. And is right into the reactor. We both expected that.
No SCV out on the map, so I don't think we're going to expect a proxy starport. ShoWTimE is a little bit worried about it, because this is a map where we've obviously seen that build a couple of times, but I feel like we've almost seen it on every single map. Terran players love the build, but perhaps it almost became too predictable at this point. I still think back of the previous game, and like obviously there's a lot of great fights that we could analyze, but I always think the first 5-6 minutes of a game of StarCraft 2 at this level are crucial, as the Adept does pick up the SCV there, so that's a good start. And I really think MarineLorD could have gotten a lot more value out of his Withermind prop. I think if he would have handled that a bit better, he slows the entire game down on ShoWTimE's side, and his follow-up push becomes more powerful. I think he misplayed that a little bit.
Kind of forgot that's how it started, honestly. Like, you're right, though. That could have gone a lot worse. Hellions actually managed to force their way in here. It's only 2 of them, so they got a 2-shot. Now down to 1. It really is only useful for scouting. Now, it already scouted what it needed to. Try and get one more probe with some decent micro, but it is a Stargate opener from ShoWTimE and right into a Phoenix.
So many low HP probes, but unfortunately not being able to get that final shot off. Yeah, the Phoenix is really making a proper resurgence in this matchup. I like to think I was a bit ahead of the meta there. If you just build Phoenix for 7 years straight, and eventually the pros will build them too. Well, yeah, it makes sense, especially against somebody like MarineLorD who loves the Widowmine drops, the Cloak Widowmine drops as well. This case, though, he's actually going for super quick stim. And I wonder if that scares ShoWTimE. ShoWTime's like, maybe not go up to 3 bases too quick. Let's just get a Colossus out and then actually expand.
Yeah, I wonder if he's choosing not to build any additional Phoenix because of that scout. You know, if you do see a bunch of Widowmines and a Medevac about to fly over, speaking of Widowmines, injuring that Phoenix quite severely. Yeah, then maybe you continue building it, and maybe there's a hiccup because he wanted to afford that Robo as fast as possible. Either way, I think you're right about making sure to keep it strong on 2 bases. You know, sometimes when we see this Colossus opener with the Phoenix, it's kind of like you can be super greedy and get Forges plus a Nexus. You can be kind of greedy and get a Nexus but no Forges. And then you can be like really safe by just sticking on 2 bases for a while and getting the Forges.
Yep.
That's kind of what I think he's going to do, but just a Robo for now.
And I absolutely think that would be the right thing to do. Well, right when I say that, he's sending out a probe. He's like, no, I am ShoWTimE. I'm going to be fine, but there's no way you can ever protect the Nexus at this point. And ShoWTimE has to know that. Maybe he's going to try to expand on the left side, but there's some serious firepower in this Terran army already. The Phoenixes are meanwhile just harassing a little bit. They're being annoying, that's fine and all. But I think MarineLorD was hoping that ShoWTimE would be on autopilot mode, that ShoWTimE would be stubborn. The fact that he's making Immortal does show that he's taking this pretty serious, but can MarineLorD get any damage done here other than keep ShoWTimE on 2 bases?
It is just kind of funny he tried that Nexus.
Yeah.
Seems like it would be specifically designed to stop a Nexus, unless it was something insane and it's already like almost done, but it's never gonna happen. So the Colossus would deal with that army especially very well. Good sight here to see that as a Widowmine. But even to let the Nexus get canceled, a reason to lose, I guess, 200 minerals, because he also lost a pylon, now takes the other 3rd base.
MarineLorD is supply blocked again at 70 out of 70. It's something I've noticed in some of the previous games as well. And it's a bit painful, because he only has a single medevac. I feel like he's had that single medevac for so long. Imagine if he has one more medevac right now, and then he could make a push at the 3rd before maybe one Colossus is out, but let's say even if one Colossus is out there, you can dance around, but then you could drop into the main base because ShoWTimE's Phoenix count is not that high that it's impossible. I really don't like this attempt by MarineLorD. I don't know why he always thinks that Marines can fight a Colossi. It just doesn't go very well.
It looks so tempting, Roddy. I agree with MarineLorD. It just looks so tempting. You're like, concaves are good, but Marines aren't as good. So that's, you're ultimately correct. I just understand where MarineLorD's coming from. Doesn't really work out. Observer's going to continue checking in on the production facilities, seeing that no extra 4th and 5th barracks. Gotta assume there's a 3rd somewhere. It is on location off to the left side. And ShoWTimE is going to be able to get to his charge and +1. I feel like a couple of drops could have gone a lot better. I mean, there's not as many Phoenix. You said that. There's certainly not going to be Blink. And there is a triple drop, but they headed it in the direction of the army. So where's that actually going to go?
Maybe in the bottom of the natural? That could be pretty sick. Just fly by the 3rd. Now we're going to have a double drop. Okay, this is kind of do or die at this point. Like all meme side. MarineLorD's tournament life is on the line here. Double drop heading into the main. Triple drop heading into the back of the 3rd. And I do really like this. He's already finding some proper damage. The Colossus show up. I think MarineLorD can always just pick up, get the hell out of here. And now at the same time, see if you can find a little bit of success with this other, well, not an army, but a hit squad. Even just a pylon or placing a couple of mines. That worked out well, though.
Yeah, I mean, ShoWTimE probably should have pulled the probes faster and only lost 2 or 3, but MarineLorD did find damage and was able to evacuate, so quite nice. And that is exactly what ShoWTimE's build is going to be a bit weak to. I mean, the Phoenixes, even when they do find the medevacs, it's kind of like you could assess the risk and then go, you know what, I can actually still drop. In that case, MarineLorD didn't bother. He was already finding some success with the right side. Left side just lives to fight another day. And moving into amassing the Marauder count. And ShoWTimE is like, I think he just likes this build a lot. Again, with the Templar Archives coming down, And the Phoenix is still patrolling for any nasty drop, as it is going to be certainly a very nasty one.
Yeah, actually, like, dropping on top of a Colossi is always scary, but this time I think you just fully send it and go for it. There's a lot of buy units here. ShoWTimE is shield battery keeps the Colossi alive. Are you kidding me? But there's still a pretty serious bio force in his main base, so he's got to take it serious. But Overcharge is activated as well. I cannot believe that Colossus just lived.
Yeah, and I mean, the other units also were around a lot longer than they should be, thanks to that overcharge. The rest of the army was a bit distracted by the third base, but even it was back on its way, so MarineLorD had to get out of there. That should have gone so much better for MarineLorD. At least the Colossus should have gone down, if not like the rest of the army with it. But instead it lives.
That's just kind of unfortunate. I think there's no other way to put it. If that drop shows up, what is it, like half a second earlier? That Colossus goes down. That shield battery probably then just gets picked off as well. And the remaining gateway units stand absolutely no chance. I do think MarineLorD got a little bit unlucky there. ShoWTimE is making a void race. Like, you know what? I need something to deal with these medevacs. I've lost the majority of my Phoenixes. Only a single Phoenix is left. Kind of funny to see a void ray being produced 10 minutes into a TVP.
It is a little funny, but it is effective. I mean, if you can actually see it on its way to the drop and actually prismatically align, it is quite good. But yeah, it's always funny to just depend on it. But I like that. ShoWTimE recognizing not only his Phoenix count has been called a little bit, but that MarineLorD is trying to abuse the weakness of his opener. As Blink finishes, as he adds on more of those stalkers, it gets more and more dangerous for MarineLorD to continue doing this. This isn't really a drop, just kind of a run by into the natural. Army is prepared. That also might, by the way, if the Blink finishes and he actually builds up stalkers, it means also that the punishment for any of these drops is a little more severe. So MarineLorD bench, you have to be careful.
Yeah, this is an insane game by MarineLorD, though. I feel like he's playing very well, but he is cutting a couple of corners. His main base is wide open, so even though MarineLorD is going for another massive drop, and he's like, F you shield battery, you ruined it last time for me, this time you're going down. There are Zealots in his main base as well, so I hope that MarineLorD is able to take care of them.
The Void Ray is still chilling, man. I hope that ShoWTimE didn't forget about it, because it could be trying to help out, taking down the medevacs, or maybe just waiting for the retreat. I'm not sure. Once again, that Colossus doesn't die. That is an immortal right there. It's even going to stay away from the rest of the army. The Void Ray comes in, but a little bit late. He wants the Colossus. He wants to do to him. Finally grabs it.
That makes sense to me. Even if that would have costed him all 4 medevacs, I'm like, you know what, MarineLorD? I get it. You've had enough of that giraffe. It seems that the Zealots were somewhat successful in the main base, but it wasn't crazy. It wasn't the 20 plus SCVs going down. And I believe the War Prism got picked off as well. No, the Prism is still around somewhere. Where is it? Okay, it's actually just flying with the main army. But I think in the end that still went all right for MarineLorD. Obviously taking care of that Colossus finally. He's been able to keep ShoWTimE on 3 bases. He's trying to get up to 4 bases himself. And this is a nice timing by ShoWTimE, of course, before this base morphs into a planetary fortress. This is still anybody's game.
That planetary's gonna actually fall, it looks like. It's getting awfully low. It is gonna go down. Force fields block out the army that he knew was on the way, but there's still another avenue of an attack. Left side, you can't bypass that. No Thors available. Right side, even more force fields going down. Eventually, they will disappear. MarineLorD wants blood, but this is excellent use of force fields, man. These sentries saving the day.
This was such a fantastic fight for your ShoWTimE. I don't think it was supposed to be that good, but he really got phenomenal value out of all these sentries. A couple of random Vikings. This was kind of an anti-timing for MarineLorD as well, right before 2-2, but I don't think that really would have made the difference because his units weren't fighting. They were just being force fielded out. So I feel that if MLord had a lead, he just kind of threw it away, but he still got some potential with his new upgrades kicking in.
Yeah, ShoWTimE, I don't know about moving into this concave. With the Viking count growing, with his War Prism being weak, a Widowmine still actually looking for a shot. More force fields are available, but not that many more. So the army just drives right on through. The Vikings are trying to take out the War Prism a little bit late to it, though. They do get a reinforcing line. Is this going to be good enough for ShoWTimE? Once again, MarineLorD in a position where he just has to micro his heart out. And it seems like ShoWTimE is really assessing these engagements correctly.
Yep, ShoWTimE is really just a master in getting so much value out of his units, keeping them alive for as long as possible. And he apparently just seems to know what he's been able to get away with. He's going to blink forward as well. That Void Ray is putting in some work on a Viking now. And MarineLorD knows, I think, that he's in all sorts of trouble. He's down 2-1. He needs to win this game, but it seems like it's not going to happen. This is, of course, not a planetary fortress. It's still an orbital, and these Colossi here are going to have a field day against all these SCVs.
And the Immortals also really coming through to help out against the Marauders that are left over once the Marines die to the Colossus. Again, the Colossus almost being saved, but one still left over is going to be good enough. With the rest of the ground army, a reinforcing War Prism showing up, and upgrade finishing for ShoWTimE. This is going to be a 3-1.
Yep, MarineLorD is running out of steam at this point, dropping under 60 supply. He knows it. ShoWTimE is going to be the one to move into the top 12 of the DreamHack SC2 Masters winter. And for MarineLorD, unfortunately, his journey will end here. GG.